Imagine you've studied English for, I don't know, like 5 years.
Right.
You have this flawless vocabulary, your grammar is totally perfect, and you can ace basically any written exam they throw at you.
Sure, you're a textbook expert.
Exactly. But then you walk into a pub in London and someone just casually says, I was absolutely gutted when my mate bailed on our lion.
Oh, man. Yeah, panic sets in.
Total panic. Suddenly you realize your textbook taught you how to pass a test,
Right.
not how to actually survive a Friday night out.
No, not at all. We usually think of fluency as this, like, giant dictionary in your head.
Right.
You learn the word for coffee, you learn the word for run, and you just plug them into a sentence. It's like this simple equation of word A plus word B equals communication.
But that doesn't actually work.
No, that equation just shatters the moment you step into the real world. Real communication operates more like a really complex control room.
The control room. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, we are constantly turning these invisible dials, adjusting our tone, the context, the rhythm, the structure, and we do it usually without even consciously registering that we're doing it.
Well, our focus today is decoding that exact control room.
Absolutely.
We have a really fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive into the mechanics of everyday English.
Yeah.
We're pulling insights from a super wide spectrum of linguistic materials today.
That's a great list.
Yeah, we're looking at foundational ESL lesson plans on daily routines, comprehensive breakdowns of phrasal verbs, guides on the critical differences between formal and informal communication.
That's a big one.
Huge. And a really insightful piece on how to actually write conversational scripts.
The breadth of these sources is really what makes this so compelling. I mean, we are tracking the evolution of language from the absolute baseline, like how we describe brushing our teeth,
Right.
all the way up to the subtle psychology of how we build trust with an audience.
So the mission for this deep dive is to give you, the listener, the ultimate shortcut to social and linguistic fluency. We want to uncover how the words you choose, from the exact moment your alarm goes off to the emails you send at work, just completely shape how the world perceives you. So, okay, let's unpack this.
We have to start at the foundation.
Right.
Before anyone can master advanced communication tactics or, the nuances of formal tone, we have to look at the baseline of every human's day.
The daily routine.
Exactly, the daily routine. The ESL guides we looked at for beginner and intermediate learners, they focus heavily on the mechanics of talking about our schedules.
The rhythm of the day.
Right. They emphasize using the present, simple tense, and adverbs of frequency. Things like always, usually, sometimes.
But what I found interesting is they don't just hand over a list of words.
No, they don't.
There's this specific method mentioned from a teaching English plan for kids, a listen and do method.
Oh yeah, the physical mimicking.
Yeah. The instructor says, I wake up at 7, while literally physically miming a yawning and stretching motion.
Right.
Or they say, I have a shower at 7:15, while, miming washing their hair.
It's so effective, though. Linking the physical action to the vocabulary embeds the language directly into the motor cortex.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. It basically bypasses the analytical part of the brain that tries to translate from a native language.
That makes total sense.
And you see this baseline human operating procedure play out in the conversation transcript between two speakers and the sources, Sophie and Ryan.
Oh, right, that transcript.
Yeah, they map out the incredibly universal actions of a morning. Ryan talks about having tea and cereal, while Sophie usually makes coffee and toast.
The great debate. Coffee or tea?
Always. And then they cover getting dressed, the commute, sitting at a desk, answering emails, going home, washing the dishes, and finally just relaxing on the sofa.
Classic daily grind. The sources also provide this narrative contrast with a student named Millie and her Saturday.
Millie Saturday, right.
Yeah, she wakes up at 6 a.m., has breakfast with her family, and then endures this mind-numbingly boring college class where a professor literally just reads from a PDF on a screen.
Ugh, the worst.
I know, right? And she only survives it because she's waiting to escape on a bus ride to go trekking in the mountains with her friends to watch the sunset.
Right.
But I have to push back here a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
When we break down our days into I wake up, I eat toast, I take the bus, it kind of sounds like a robotic checklist.
It does.
Like a computer booting up its operating system or something. Aren't these mundane details incredibly boring to actually talk about? Like, why spend so much linguistic energy on them?
What's fascinating here is that we completely misunderstand the function of the boring routine.
How so?
Native speakers don't talk about their daily routines to share new information,
Yeah.
They do it to establish baseline social harmony.
Oh, interesting.
Look at Millie's story. It isn't just a schedule. It's a map of her underlying values.
Right, because of the contrast.
Exactly.
Mm.
Her routine highlights a deeply universal human tension. She's balancing the tedious, obligatory work represented by that professor just reading the PDF with the profound human need for autonomy and connection.
Which is the sunset track with her friends.
Exactly. The routine acts as an empathy bridge.
An empathy bridge.
Yeah. If I ask about your morning commute, I'm not really asking about traffic.
You don't actually care about the jam on the highway.
No.
Huh.
I am asking about your daily grind, which opens the door to understanding your stress levels, your priorities, and really who you actually are.
Wow.
And those adverbs of frequency, how often we do things, they actually map our psychological anchors.
That honestly reframes small talk entirely for me. But, native speakers don't usually sound like that rigid robotic checklist when they have those conversations anyway.
No, they don't.
They don't say, I leave my bed and start my machine.
Right, that'd be weird.
They use phrasal verbs, and the sources highlight these as the core engine of natural English.
Oh, absolutely. A phrasal verb is basically a verb combined with a preposition or an adverb that creates a totally new meaning.
Right.
And the massive trap for language learners is assuming these can just be translated literally.
Oh, the sources give a glaring example of that exact trap.
The take after one.
Yes. Take after, as in I take after my mother, meaning I resemble her or act like her.
Right.
If you translate that literally into Spanish, for example, you get tomar después,
Which means?
which means literally to take something like a physical object later in time. It makes zero sense to a Spanish speaker.
That's complete nonsense.
Yeah. So here's where it gets really interesting. I like to think of phrasal verbs as like linguistic zip files.
Linguistic zip files. I love that.
Yeah. They are these tiny, compressed packages of words that instantly unpack all this complex imagery and emotional context in the listener's brain without you needing a long, drawn-out explanation.
It's efficient.
Super efficient. If you know how to unpack the zip file, you get access to the club of fluent speakers.
The mechanics of how they unpack that imagery is just brilliant. Let's run through that same daily routine we just analyzed, but applying the phrasal verbs from the sources.
Okay, let's do it.
So in the morning, your alarm doesn't just ring, it goes off. You don't just stop sleeping, you wake up. On a weekend, maybe you deliberately sleep in or lie in.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. And you use your coffee not just to gain energy, but to perk up.
Right, perk up.
Notice the spatial prepositions there.
Yeah.
Up implies rising, elevating.
Oh, that makes sense.
Then you get to work. You clock in, you look through your emails, and maybe you dash off a few quick replies.
We're off, yeah.
During the day, you come up with new ideas, you flesh out projects, and at the end of the day, you wrap up your work and clock out.
And the evening just continues the pattern.
Exactly.
Like, you might go to the store to stock up on groceries, you get home and warm up some food,
Late.
maybe you head out again to meet up with friends, and finally you get back to bed and doze off.
It just flows. Adding those tiny spatial words out, off, up, it fundamentally changes the psychological imagery for the listener.
It really does.
Saying you dashed off an email conveys speed, casualness, and a sense of physical motion that the phrase, I quickly wrote an email, entirely lacks.
Yeah, I quickly wrote an email. Sounds so stiff.
Very stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And fleshing out a project, that adds a visceral, three-dimensional physical weight to an abstract concept. We use these verbs because they make the speaker sound less textbook stiff and more emotionally resonant.
They add vibrant color to the machinery.
Perfectly said.
But, the friction in communication isn't just about describing a perfect routine.
No, never.
The real friction happens when the routine goes off the rails.
Always does.
Right. We have our perfectly fleshed out plan, but life happens. So how do we communicate when things break down?
The source material dives into the language of being late and explicitly states that honesty is the best policy.
Honestly, the spectrum of honest excuses they provide is fascinating to read.
Oh, it's wild.
You have the mundane, standard disruptions, right? Like, I overslept, I forgot to set the alarm, I had a dental appointment.
Normal stuff.
Normal, but then they list these chaotic, cinematic ones. A bike was stolen, the bus broke down, I got a flat tire.
It escalates quickly.
It really does. And the most dramatic one is the whole area was flooded near the river, so the bus had to take a detour.
I mean, a flooded river is a difficult excuse to argue with.
You can't argue with a flood, but look at the incredible variance in severity there.
Yep.
You're comparing a casual I overslept to the high-stakes drama of a natural disaster. Does the excuse itself actually matter less than the tone we use to deliver it?
That's the real question.
Because if I tell my boss I overslept versus telling my best friend I overslept, the words are exactly the same, but the packaging has to be entirely different. So is it just about matching the excuse to the audience?
Well, it's actually a bit more dangerous than that.
Dangerous.
Yeah. It isn't merely about matching the audience, it is about matching the power dynamic.
Okay, unpack that.
Delivering an excuse requires intense social calibration because an excuse is essentially a social peace offering.
How does the power dynamic change the actual language, though?
Think about it. If you are late to work because of an icy road, your boss expects a formal, "I sincerely apologize for the delay." Right. That language acknowledges their authority. If you just roll in and use a casual "sorry, I'm late"
Yeah.
with a superior, you aren't just being informal, you are actively challenging the hierarchy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Conversely, if you meet a friend at a coffee shop and use that formal apology, "I sincerely apologize for the delay," you introduce this weird, icy social distance.
They'd think you were mad at them.
Exactly. Or just being a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And the mechanism of over-explaining plays into that guilt, too.
Oh, I over-explain all the time.
We all do.
Yeah.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, over-explaining your excuse often signals guilt or weakness.
Right.
A brief, polite apology signals confidence and competence. The words you choose package the disruption for the person waiting for you.
That difference in how we package our apologies brings us to the most significant divide covered in our sources: formal versus informal tone.
Yes.
This is like the chameleon effect of the English language. Switching tones feels exactly like changing clothes for an occasion.
That's a great analogy.
You wouldn't wear a tuxedo to the gym, right?
Hopefully not.
And you shouldn't use a phrase like, "I humbly request your esteemed presence" to invite your buddy to grab a coffee. That is basically a linguistic tuxedo at the gym.
It is. And the structural differences between the tuxedo and the gym clothes are just stark.
They really are.
Formal English is rigid. It demands complete sentences, absolutely zero contractions, and highly precise vocabulary.
Right, like what?
Like, you use words like commence instead of start, purchase instead of buy, or require instead of need.
Very Latin-based.
Exactly.
Whereas informal English is basically the Wild West by comparison.
Oh, Wild West.
It relies heavily on contractions. It embraces slang like wanna, gonna, kinda. It uses those simpler Germanic verbs we just mentioned rather than the fancy Latin-rooted formal words.
Yep.
And traditionally, this divide splits pretty neatly between writing and speaking, right? Writing like essays or corporate reports is formal, you avoid abbreviations, but speaking is naturally informal.
Well, that traditional split exists, sure, but it is heavily manipulated by culture and generation. For instance, British English tends to lean more formal and polite in daily interactions, saying things like, "Would you mind if I?"
Right.
Whereas American English operates much more directly, opting for a relaxed, "Can you help me?"
Just getting straight to the point.
Exactly. And age and media manipulate it even further. Younger generations lean into informal slang to build in-group identity, while older generations often view formal etiquette as a baseline of respect.
And the platform dictates everything, right?
Oh.
Social media demands abbreviations and quick hits, while a legacy news outlet demands structured, formal credibility.
Precisely. Navigating all of this requires a skill called communication intelligence.
Communication intelligence.
Yeah, and the most important insight from the sources regarding this intelligence is that being polite does not mean being stiff.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the listener, who is maybe writing an email right now? You don't have to sound like a 19th century aristocrat to show respect, right?
Not at all. You can inject warmth into formal English without sacrificing an ounce of professionalism. Simply opening a formal request with, "Hope you are doing well," bridges the gap perfectly.
Oh, that's simple.
It is. It softens the strict Latin vocabulary with a human sentiment. Communication intelligence is about reading the room, reading the platform, and matching the medium to the audience while still maintaining your own authenticity.
But what happens when those two mediums violently collide?
Ah, the collision.
Yeah, because we've established writing is usually formal and speaking is informal. But sometimes you have to write something that you will eventually speak.
Right.
Like a keynote speech, a presentation, or say a script for a deep dive, exactly like this one.
This is where our ingrained habits completely betray us.
How so?
Well, the source from Nick Redman on Writing for Speaking points out that our school instincts ruin our ability to communicate in these moments.
Oh, because of all the essays.
Exactly. School trained us to write rigid, formal essays designed for the eye, not the ear.
Right. When we read an academic essay out loud, we sound like a textbook. The human ear rejects it. We don't need academic structure for spoken word. We need conversational flow.
And the source outlines incredibly practical mechanics to bypass those academic instincts.
Okay, lay them out for us.
First, draft your initial thoughts by dictating them into your phone.
Just talk.
Just talk. That ensures the sentence lengths naturally match your actual lung capacity and breath patterns.
That is so smart.
It's a game changer. Second, read the text out loud during the editing phase to ensure it sounds like your actual voice, not some corporate robot.
And the text itself needs to look different too, right?
Definitely.
Using bullet points or subheadings breaks up dense blocks of text so you don't lose your place while speaking.
Right.
You have to write directly to you, addressing the audience as individuals. And you really have to inject personality.
Have to.
The author explicitly mentions using local dialect or slang to remain authentic, citing Irish examples like we or feck to anchor her writing in her real identity.
Which is funny, because using local slang in a written document breaks every fundamental rule of traditional academic writing.
Every single one. Think about how we are talking to you right now.
Yeah.
If we were reading an academic, peer-reviewed paper into these microphones, you would have tuned out 10 minutes ago.
Oh, long gone.
We are deliberately breaking the rules of formal writing. Right now we're using contractions, we're pausing, we're speaking directly to you because conversational messiness builds trust.
This raises an important question, though, about the psychology behind that trust.
Okay.
Why does the human ear prefer the messy version over flawless, polished academic prose?
Yeah, why do listeners reject robotic perfection?
Because listeners connect with personality.
Right.
They connect with idiosyncrasies, a slight shift in pacing, or a localized phrasal verb. Flawless formal perfection creates an invisible barrier.
It's cold.
It's very cold. It broadcasts superiority and creates distance. Conversational messiness, on the other hand, creates intimacy. It signals to the listener, hey, I am a real person and I am in this room with you.
The linguistic tuxedo is off.
Exactly.
We are in our comfortable clothes, sitting across a table.
The formal rules are tools, but knowing exactly when to break them is where true fluency actually lies.
That is beautifully put. So bringing it all together for you, the listener, we've covered massive ground today.
We really have.
We started with the foundational mechanics of how we describe waking up and brushing our teeth, proving that those boring routines are actually empathy bridges.
Right.
We leveled up into the zip file world of phrasal verbs, analyzed the really complex power dynamics behind how we deliver excuses, and decoded the social web of formal versus informal communication.
It's a lot of invisible machinery.
It is, but understanding these linguistic gears, knowing which dial to turn and why turning it matters, that is what makes you highly adaptable in any room you walk into.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a high-stakes corporate boardroom or just a local pub on a Friday night.
It gives you conscious control over that invisible social machinery we discussed at the very beginning.
Exactly.
And, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, something that builds on this entire evolution of language we've been talking about.
Lay it on us.
As our digital communication, like texting, and increasingly AI-generated emails, starts to blend the formal and informal into a single, highly efficient but completely generic internet voice.
Oh, yeah.
Will the distinct art of deep formality and hyperlocal slang eventually disappear entirely?
Wow.
Right? Will the drive for frictionless communication mean we all just end up sounding exactly the same?
A completely homogenized linguistic landscape where all the dials are just locked to the exact same average frequency?
Exactly.
That is definitely something for you to chew on. Until next time, keep adjusting your dials, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.